In today's video, we are going to be examining these carnations here while I take you through my 3-step process for learning how to paint and draw new flowers. And when I call them new, it's a new to me kind of thing. So how do I go about examining their shapes, the textures, and just the way that they look and how I can communicate that through my art? Hello everyone, my name is Leah. If you're new to my channel, hi and welcome. I like to create content that helps individuals with chronic health issues or those who are new to using art. In today's video, it is going to be in a real-time way, so I'm not editing a lot. Like, I'm just going to edit some small spaces, but it's basically going to be in real time. That way you can experience it without going, wait, what was the next step? Because there's nothing worse than watching a tutorial video and you going, wait, how did she get from there to there all of a sudden? All right, let's just dive right in. I have a basic 3-step process for how I go about that. Step 1 is actually to look at the item itself. And I want to make this simpler for you guys at this moment. So we're going to take a look at this one here because it got bent. So it's falling off. I'm gonna have to clean those scissors. So what I do when I have an item, it can be via a photograph or something that's in hand, I take a look at the shapes that it is. You can do this with a pencil or with a paintbrush. I'm gonna show you it done both ways. So the first shape that I see here is kind of like an oval shape. So I'm going to, and it's on an angle. From the angle I'm sitting at, I know it's also tilted for you guys as well. So it's kind of like an oval shape. And then there's kind of like a weird triangular shape here. And then it branches down like this. And then this part of the flower also has triangular shapes. So triangular shape, triangular shape, triangular shape. And then kind of a rounded shape here, rounded, rounded. And there's more than one, so they're layered in here. Right? And those are the basic shapes. And that's when you can start putting in a little bit more detail, but that's for the next step. If you wanted to do this with just a paintbrush, you could use any paintbrush that you want. I usually gravitate towards flats, but you can do this in a round. So I'm going to show you the difference between the two. Now, this can be done with watercolors, with your gouache, with ink, even with acrylic paint. Because right now, what we're just doing is trying to put those shapes into action. So it's an oval shape. And then some sort of like thing down here. And then a line, and then kind of like a triangular shape here, and another one here, and another one here. And yes, right now, because I'm using one solid color, you can't see the difference between the two, but that's okay. You can do this step in colored accuracy, or as I'm doing right now, which I recommend, because right now we're just trying to figure out the shapes of what we're doing and the way we move our wrist to accomplish that. So it's kind of like another shape here and kind of like something here and another thing here. And there was something at the back and a little bit at the back here. And there we go. And then because we're now expanding on what we saw, you can see that there's petals here. So there's a shape, sorry, not a petal, a leaf, and then another leaf here, and then like a leaf here, and a leaf here and one down here. So that was done with a flat brush. If I wanted to do it with a round brush, depending on the size of it, you can get bigger details. I feel like that should also be something I mention, is that the size of your paintbrush will also determine the type of brush strokes that you make. I always recommend learning a shape with the largest brush that you can. That way it's more about the action of moving your wrist and your arm and less about trying to get these small details that you see. Just get some paint. Okay, so if I were to do this with a round brush, again, I'm gonna start with that, I'm gonna move this down a little, with the shape that I see. So it's kind of like an oval shape, and then kind of like triangular, and another triangular shape, another triangular shape. Gonna put that here and that there. Oops, I didn't do it at the right angle. That's okay. Put the petal here. I keep calling them petals today. And then I have that round shape here, round shape here, round shape here, round shapes at the back. At the angle I'm at, I can only see really the tips. And there we go. They're not fancy, right? Like when you look at this, they aren't fancy, but that's not the point. We don't actually want them to be fancy. We want to just examine them, and it'll give us a better idea as to what we're seeing. It'll also let us know what is the right brush for us as creatives. Is a flat brush the look that we prefer? Is a pointed brush the look that we prefer? Is this the right size to create this flower with? Those are things that you can just instinctually start to lean towards and know the answer to as you do these kinds of examinations of the flowers. Step 2 is now noting where the details are that really pop out to you. And when it comes to that, you can do it on top of your step 1s where you examine the shapes, or you can do it again and create side by side step 1, step 2s. So if this, I'm gonna let this dry actually. You know what? I was just gonna dive right into doing step 2 on step 1, but I want it to dry a little. So I'm going to recreate this as a drawing. So now that I wanna go more into detailing, I can make my oval shape. I hope this is picking up on camera. I recognize that as the end of this actually has a point to it, and then another point to it, and that triangular shape that I noted down here earlier has petals. Jeez Louise. Has some of the greenery, the leaf bits that expand out. So I can then do that. And as I look at it at a closer note, this actually has a slight circular aspect to it. And then it goes down into the stem. And then we can just bring it all the way down. And then I go to more of the greenery part, which goes like that. It has a bit of a rounded end to it. And back down here again, it has a bit of a rounded aspect to it. And then when we come back to the flower, the triangles have rounded edges. And then the petals of the flower at the angle I'm at look more like that, with a little dip in it, and then it rounds back out, and then it goes round here and up here, and there's another one kind of back here and one back here. So as you can see, we went from very basic to a little bit more detailed in focusing on the shapes that those original shapes create. Okay, this feels a little bit drier than that one. I used way too much water for that. So if I were to add to the details on this one, I'm going to do it in the red now. I'm going to come here and I'm going to be like, yeah, oh, you can't really see the red, can you? I will use my deep blue. If you recognize this color palette from my previous video, it's from when I did my 1 minute and 5 minute exercises on how to become more intuitive when you're doing your healing with art time. If this is your first time discovering my channel, hello, hi. I have a video that I've recently posted. I'm not too sure when this one will go live, but in it I show how you can use a 1 minute and a 5 minute exercise to shut off the voices that make you second guess your choices and become more intuitive with your actions while creating. And I was using traditional gouache for that painting and several others that I've created since then. And what I love about traditional gouache and using it in a porcelain palette is that it stays fresh for a really long time, so you can re-wet it and use it a lot. It's, you know, kind of like watercolors, but more opaque. Okay. Back to what I was doing. The red. Okay. So there, let's go back to putting in the second step of our details. And we have that pointed part here and another pointed part here. And what's great about doing it in a painting style, I find, is that you can be a little bit more loose with the details. So you can make it a solid color. You can outline it. You could do the same thing if you were doing these shapes with, instead of a pencil, but like a brush pen or just anything really. But I love the freedom I feel like I get when I use paint. Put a little point there. And add to this point here to make it more pronounced, especially this part. There we go. And then into this. And this way. And then this felt like it went more like that. Over, this one came under, and that circular bit here. And then this one again was over. This one comes here, goes there. This one actually, at the angle that I'm at, I painted it kind of wrong, but that's okay. Should be more like that. As for the petals of the flower, I feel like also this has a little bit of detail here, so I might put a little, like, yeah, I like that. And then up here. You know, you can put just a little bit more detail, get a little bit more in there, and figure out what catches your eye, but also what you want to show. All right, now that we've had the opportunity to examine these things, we're going to move on to step 3, and that's creating a final piece. I say final piece with an air quote because it doesn't have to be fancy what we're doing. It's just a further exploration into what we see, but putting that next step of detail into it. So what I mean by that is I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to take a look at the larger florals that are here. I feel like I should put something here to hide that, but that paper is still wet. Okay, this is just temporary, but I want you guys to just have a better view of the flowers themselves. So now that we did those first initial examinations of it, we can actually do things by color versus a solid color. So I can go in here and start with my greens. I can be like, okay, let's do it here. Shape here. And something that branches off on this one over here into something here. And then it comes down here. And it also has another piece that kind of branches here and up here. That goes like here. And this goes here. This goes up here on a different angle and has one that sticks down here and then goes into the oval shaped shape. And there's something that goes like here. Into the oval shape one here. And this goes down a little further. And there's greenery, more greenery. And remember, at this stage, when you're now going in with giving everything a designated color to really examine it, you can be as detail oriented at this stage as you want. I like just doing it really loose. It's just my preferred way of creating. If I wanted something for me to be identical to what I'm seeing, I would take a photo. That's just my creative process and how I see creating. Doing this is all about just putting in playfulness, being able to calm and breathe. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for that color for now. And then I'm actually going to create a creamy color with the colors I have on my palette for the flowers. And this one goes over on top of this. So I'm going to do that. And this one has a bit that's down here. And then I think I made that one a little too big, but that's okay. There we go. Oops. My clamp is in the way. This one does feel a little flatter, so that's good. And there's that. And then you can stick with the same type of brush, or you can go in and use another shape for your detailing, because these are the two brushes I have right now. I mean, I have this one here, but I don't feel like it. You can do the detailing over this layer now with a pen or colored pencil. I like to definitely use multiple supplies to do it, but I actually feel like I want to put a little bit more detailing in. So I'm going to get my green, a little bit of dark color, and mix a new color. And come back in here and do a little bit more. And it's okay if it bleeds into what you're doing. Because this isn't supposed to be perfect. Then I'm going to come back here with my pink. And put in a little bit more. And note how, like, now that I've been able to examine it a bit, you can look at the petals and see that it's not a perfect circular rounded edge. It's got little bumps to it, a little character. That's where these putting in the next round of details can really come in. You can be a little bit more freer with the way you move your wrists. And this one dried a lot faster than that one, so you can actually see how it Okay, I want this to dry because my next stage is going to be using some colored pencils. Now that I've given this a chance to dry, I can go back in and do some more detail work if I'd like. It all comes down to personal preference. You can do more details with paint, but I'm going to use my colored pencils. You'll also notice that I've put the flowers away so they don't die on me, but I still have this little one here. Surprisingly hasn't wilted. It's been a couple of hours since I recorded this half, so. Carnations, who knew they were so cool? I'm gonna probably do like little details. What I love about this part is all about personal preference and how much you want to really put in here. And how free and loose you want to go with it. I want to add some more here. I'm going to give this some added shape. And yeah, I like it. I also like to remind myself when I'm doing things like this to not judge the first time I paint something, to let myself just enjoy the process of it. And the more I practice at doing something, the better I'll get at it. So you can do this multiple times, especially if you have the flowers on hand or a book that you'd like to reference back to. You don't have to make this amazing, perfect rendition of the flower or the object that you're creating the first time. You can do it multiple times and be able to see how you go from the beginning stages to where you are after maybe drawing it for a week or a month or even a year. Because the way we view things and the details we put into it, what we think is important information today might not be the same as the way we might look at it tomorrow. Like if I were to do this flower itself in a less clinical way and I were to paint it in an abstract way, I would definitely be going about it a little bit differently. But because I want to actually examine the shapes and the aspects of the flowers, that's why I'm doing it this way. Yeah, I kind of like how this goes there. And maybe we'll put some more leaves here. And then for the flower part, I just want to like add some like line definition, especially because this type has these beautiful light pink little, like, I don't know what that part is called, but I would call it not maybe a ripple, but has something. Can you see it? Am I even in frame? Sure hope I am. So I just want to include some of that detailing here. know, I think I'm just letting instinct take over for what I'm doing. And over time, that'll happen for you as well. I feel like with social media, even here on YouTube, when you're watching tutorials and learning how to do things, you see some of these beautiful and amazing renditions of a flower or a still life or a portrait or anything like that. But in the reality, it takes time, practice, and sometimes we people that teach these lessons will record multiple times or practice before we hit record and things like that. So it's okay to have something that isn't quote unquote beautiful or perfect. But if it screams you, your personality, the way you see things, then that to me is what makes it beautiful, is what makes it perfect. And it's why I love using art as a tool towards healing, because when I'm having tough days, just being able to sit down and create something, anything, and put the energy that I need to get out into it, or to create something that brings peace to me, that allows me to just shut off that voice in my head that says today's a bad day and I feel horrible and I'm not getting anything achieved today. But if I've been able to sit down and create something, whether I'm sitting down on the couch or laying in bed or anything like that, I still feel like I've achieved something and I've done something good for my soul. So what do you guys think? Do you think my 3-part step to learning the shapes and creating something is something that you're interested in trying for yourself? I have one final recommendation when it comes to doing exercises like this, and that is to experiment with the supplies that you have. If you're anything like me, you might have a little bit of everything. So see what supplies really help you communicate how you see the flower or how you want to represent that flower. So if you're really into texture, you might be interested in using acrylic paints or pastels, neocolors, something that'll allow you to put texture down into creating those shapes. But if you're really into like having fluidity and flowing, maybe watercolors are the way you should try it out and see what you get. Using a traditional gouache allows you to do something similar to it, but in a more opaque way. When it comes to doing the final details, try some where you do it with paint and you don't use any other materials. But then try another type of flower or anything and use ink as your final detailing, or again, pastels or something that you have that allows you to have different shapes and the approach to doing something. I'll give you an example. With things that are thicker, like a neocolor or an oil pastel, you don't have the same fine tip to get detail marks, so it's going to be rounder. And yes, technically I know you can sharpen them and get a fine tip, but when they aren't as sharp as a pencil, you can get some interesting little things. So your shaping is going to be a little different. The way you use it might be slightly different as well. So you're going to have different, it's going to have a different look. So if you experiment with that, you might find the materials as well that help you communicate your creative flow. Alrighty, so we've reached the end of today's video. I do hope that this helps you on your creative journey to using art as a tool towards healing. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comments section below. I know this is one of my longer videos just because I take you through step 1 all the way to a finished piece in a real-time way. Like I'm not editing this out, like I'm not editing anything out. So thank you so much for watching it all the way through to the end. If you are new here and you liked this type of content, hit that subscribe button, because that's all that I'm about here, is creating content and things that help individuals use art as a tool towards healing. So I have tutorial-like videos. I also do reviews on products so you understand the features and what they're like. So in case you're unsure of what supply you want. I also am in the process of taking something called the Ultimate Pencil Case to Kickstarter. Here's the mini version. I created it to help artists and individuals with chronic health issues to take their mixed media supplies with them no matter where they go. Because there's nothing worse than not feeling well physically, but needing to create art and not being able to do that in a designated space that you have in your home, or if you're going to a lot of doctor's appointments and you have to be there for like hours and being stuck there staring at walls. So yeah, if you're interested in things like that, please hit subscribe. Once again, thank you so much. And until next time, stay magical.